On this episode of Game Shack, I review two brand new tabletop pinball games featuring several new unique features. Might be the most exciting product in the home arcade in a very long time, at least in terms of real world pinball. I'm going to break down all of the cool features, how big it is, how much it costs, what are the negatives, everything you need to know about the Electronic Pro Pinball that you can buy right now, coming up next. Hey everybody, welcome on back into the Game Shack. I'm your host, JDV for Evil Genius Entertainment. Thank you for stopping by. If this is your first time here, welcome on in. And for all you regulars, glad to have you back. As always, you guys are the primary sponsor of this channel, so please give me a thumbs up on the way out the door so I can keep making videos like this. Speaking of that, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when content like this drops. And let's just jump right on into it. Okay, right off the bat, Ambassador Electronics, who makes this pinball game, sent me these machines for free to review. No money has changed hands. They didn't make me promise to review it one way or the other. They don't get to see this video before you do. My opinions are my own. I'm going to try to be as honest and as unbiased as I possibly can be. But as always, do your own research, look into other people's videos, yada, 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 and, make up your own mind before you spend your hard-earned cash. This is a brand new product. It just hit the market. It's been in the works now for over 2 years, so there's going to be a whole lot of unique things here. However, if the pricing is too much or the size is too much, be aware that they do make smaller versions, including an NHL version and a neon version. I hope to review all 4 of those smaller versions in the video next week. But so there you go. So if you want something smaller and cheaper, just be aware that they do make that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about these guys. Okay, so the Pac-Man retails for $179.99, I think. The other one's $159. Again, you can get these things cheaper at Amazon right now. They also sell them at BJ's. I think Hobby Lobby's going to have these. There's a whole bunch of places. So again, check the description down below. There's just so many positives about this machine. It's really hard to know exactly where to start. But let's talk about the size of this thing. It's got about a 19-inch diagonal playfield. Here you can see it on top of my AtGames 4KP for some sort of idea of the size of this thing. I think this is the largest home pinball game you can buy right now that isn't from Stern or Jersey Jack or, a legitimate real-world full-size pinball game. This is the biggest show in town as far as that. Now, there have been other bigger games that have been issued out before. I'm thinking primarily of the pinball game from Zizzle, the Pirates of the Caribbean table they put out. They also have a Marvel. But those games, I think, are 12, 13 years old now. You can only buy them used, and you will be paying anywhere from $300 to $500 for that, depending on the seller. So again, these you can buy right now, brand new in box. Let's talk a little bit about the packaging before I get into the actual specifics. I think the packaging is very, very nice. Very classy looking, has a nice little carry handle on top. It describes everything that the game does and, will look really, really nice wrapped up underneath a Christmas tree. I'll talk a little bit about who this is for at the end of the video. But the packaging is very nice. It's packed very well, and it's actually very simply packed. It really is ready to go right out of the box. All you have to do is plug in the included AC cord, which is over 6 foot long. I was very impressed by that. A lot of times these things only have a 2 or 3 foot cord. No, this is almost a 7 foot long cord for the AC adapter, which is awesome. Good job on that, Ambassador. That's a very pleasant surprise. The cord is thick and looks real good, and it has 2 little feet that you attach to the back. One has a slightly bigger peg on it, so there's no way to confuse which way to go. And unlike some other tabletop pinball games, all the stickers and everything were already pre-applied. So that's it. You take it out, you plug it in, put it on the feet, and you are playing pinball. So a really quick turnaround in terms of unwrapping it and starting to play it. In terms of the actual play, let's talk about some of the new unique features on this thing. First of all, it has 3 round bumpers, just like you'd see in a real pinball game. It's sort of at the center of the playfield, and they kick around the ball real nice and just the way you'd kind of think. They also have active LED lighting on those bumpers and indeed all over the playfield. There's just lights to despair on this game. There are LED lighting everywhere on this thing. There's LED lights on the side, on the playfield. They interact with what's going on in the game. Really great job in terms of the interactive lighting on this game. It also has a rectangular bumper that can activate from either side, so that's cool. So you're talking about 4 total real bumpers on this thing. That's going to be a unique feature on this compared to other tabletops. Mind-blowingly, it actually has 2 directional saucers on this game. So a saucer is like a little divot where the ball goes into and then kicks it out later, and you get scoring and things like that. So the fact that it has 1, much less 2, is kind of mind-blowing to me. That's a brand new, unique feature in this sort of sector. You're not going to find that in any other tabletop game, as far as I know, ever. So that is sweet. It also has a secret kind of drop hole where if you kick it up the left side, it goes down a hole and then goes over to the right side of the playfield and then spits it out. That too is a first for a tabletop pinball game. I was shocked to see that. Heck, you don't see that feature on a lot of real world pinball games. The game that I think of that does that probably most is the Street Fighter game that I had. This is a very similar kind of thing. Really amazing, some of the professional type features that you would find on a real full-size pinball game. You find them right here on this tiny little 19-inch diagonal playfield. It also has a very bright LED score screen on the back of the machine that is very nice. It keeps the high score, so whoever gets the high score, it retains that even if you unplug it or take the batteries out. Speaking of that, let me talk a little bit about that. It is a positive that you can run this off of 5 C-size batteries. So if there is no power, or if you want to take this camping or on a car trip or whatever, you can run this thing off of 5C batteries. However, they say in the instructions not to have the batteries in while you have the AC adapter in. So be aware of that. If you're going to run it on batteries, just run it on batteries. If you're going to run it off the AC adapter, just run it off of that. Be aware of that if you pick this unit up. Anyway, you can reset that high score if you want to. There's a little hole that you can stick a paper clip into and reset it. I don't know why you'd want to do that. I mean, hey, if there's a really high score on there, get good and beat it. But just be aware you can reset that high score if you want to. Okay, let me talk a little bit about the play on the game. It comes with 3 flippers, 2 at the bottom and 1 on the upper right. When you hit the right flipper, it'll activate both, and left, of course, left. These are the smoothest flippers I have ever used on any tabletop pinball game I've ever played. I probably have a dozen of them over the years. It is amazing how absolutely silky smooth it is. You can really control you can really hit it hard, you can hit it soft. You have a lot of control over that. Both the right side where you're operating 2 flippers, just as smooth. It's amazing how silky smooth those flippers are. And it really is hard to do. I have had a lot of smaller pinball games where the flippers were the weakest part of the game. They're not mechanical, and so you're not hitting it and then it electronically activates. It is manual, but it's so smooth you won't care. I mean, it really is a very, very smooth, well-engineered thing in terms of that. In terms of the actual play value, oh my God, the ball shoots around so fast. There's so much things to do. Every so often you have that, where it'll just hit all the bumpers and just go crazy around the playfield. Trying to hit it up that to the secret little hole thing is so awesome. I'll talk about the negatives in a little bit. There's not a lot, but there is a couple. The one real negative I would say in terms of the playfield is there isn't a whole lot to do for the left flipper. I think it is probably possible to shoot it up the left there and get it into the secret hole, but it's going to be super hard to do with that left flipper. There isn't a whole lot on the right side of the playfield to, where the left flipper would get it up there. So, that's not perfect, I guess. But other than that, you're going to have quite a good experience just in terms of the actual play on this game, because it really does play like a real pinball game. Speaking of that, even though the plunger is just a small little pullback thing, the thing is very powerful. So even if you pull it back a little bit, it'll snap it up there really good. But it does give you a surprising amount of control on there. So you can make skill shots right off of the flipper where you go up and then it'll kind of drop down in the middle of the playfield and trigger some scoring that way. Now, I don't know if that gives you more points from just doing it normal, so I don't know if it's a true skill shot, but it is fun to try to get that. You know, it's fun to try to get it right off the bat where you get it down there, because then it jumps into the bumpers anyway. So it's kind of a shot you want to try to make. Again, it's surprising how well the little things work on this. The bumpers, the saucers work and all that's super cool, but the flippers are so smooth. That plunger is so smooth. There's also a little kind of a safety place on the playfield, so you can roll the ball over and lock it in for if you want to travel with this thing. So again, all the little things that you kind of want to see in a pinball game this size have been thought out and are here. Okay, obviously, I really do like this thing, but I gotta talk about the negatives. There are a few negatives. The one thing that you're gonna find right off the bat is it's a loud machine. Because of all of the things that are going on, all of the different bumpers and everything else like that, the game is loud. You're not going to be able to play this thing at midnight next to your wife while she's sleeping and not wake her up. You're going to wake the kids up if you're playing this thing at midnight. That said, pinball games are loud. I mean, there's no getting around that, but this game is loud because, again, it's all plastic construction. There's no wood to suck up any of the sound or anything like that. And because there are so many mechanical things, the saucers, the bumpers, the little secret tunnel that, you know, kicks it out, there's a motor that makes that happen, all of that makes it a decently loud experience. Now, I didn't have a problem with it. It's just fine. I mean, it's here in my home arcade. You expect a certain amount of volume out of that. The other thing about it is the sound effects and music are sort of all or nothing. And if they're on, they're very loud. Again, it kind of adds to the arcade experience. However, there is no volume control, so there's no rheostat. You can't make the volume go from 1 to 10. It's just at 10. So that may or may not be something that you are happy with. Now, the cool thing is that on the Pac-Man game, you're going to have all the various Pac-Man sounds, and those Pac-Man sounds will happen like based on what's happening in the game. So if the ball drains, it goes rah, 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 you know, the rah, 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 rah. It's all triggered by stuff that goes on in the game. Same thing with the normal generic arcade version. All of the sound effects are going to be triggered for a reason, and that is really cool. But again, you don't have any control over the volume of that, so it is all or nothing. It's something to maybe look down the line if they make a bigger, even more pro version of it. So anyway, you're not going to be playing this thing at midnight and not waking up the whole house. I'd say actually the biggest kind of downer for me is the fact that this thing goes into sleep mode very quickly, just after a couple of minutes, like maybe 3 or 4 minutes. It goes into sleep mode, which is very understandable if you're running it off of those 5C batteries, because again, with all those motors and everything, that's going to be very taxing on those batteries. But I would like to have had that mode be disengaged while you were plugged into the wall, because why not? There is no specific target on the right side of the playfield for the left flipper to get to. Again, not a giant deal. The ball is going to be shooting around so fast because the playfield is relatively small. Speaking of that playfield, you're talking about maybe a quarter of the size ball of a real pinball. Here you can see a real pinball next to the pinball that comes included in the game. So it kind of gives you, again, an idea of the scale that you're talking about. So again, if you are somebody that wants a 3/4 scale or full scale experience, you are not going to get it on this. This is a tabletop game. It is never meant for anything more than that. I mean, really, once they go bigger than this, then we are starting to get into 3/4 scale. This is about as big as you can get and still call it a tabletop type game. So just be aware of that. You're not going to have the exact type of experience with a ball the size of a real pinball. Speaking of that, even though there are some amazing, unique, first time ever seen in a tabletop game, there are a few things that you're not going to see. Primarily, you're not going to have a spinner and you're not going to have drop targets, all right? So I think drop targets are probably impossible, both in terms of the size and, of course, the pricing. I'm not sure if a spinner is or isn't. I think maybe that's something they could add on the right side, even if it doesn't actually trigger a score, just something for you to aim at and make a noise, a clicker, clacker, something like that. There's so much tech packed into this that it really does give me hope for a bigger version of this down the line that is a true 3/4 scale game, because if they can shrink all of this down into this form factor, imagine what they could do with a bigger play field. Now again, this is all plastic, and that's one of the things that I kind of advocate moving forward to get real pinball into the hands of the people. This is something that you can pick up right now that's brand new, handsomely packaged, would make an incredible birthday present or Christmas present, either for yourself or for someone in your family. There is so many positive things to say about this. There's so many positive things to say about Ambassador, spending the R&D that it takes to get all of these different things into this form factor. I really am super excited about this. Should you buy it? You know, I don't know. That's going to be up to you. If you don't like tabletop pinball or pinball in general, then no. But if you like pinball on a small form factor that is relatively cheap, that is relatively tough, and does things never before seen in this scale of pinball game, then this is an absolute no-brainer. It is realistically a slam dunk for this product. This is a very enthusiastic A from me. There's a couple of little things that could be better, of course, because there's always going to be room for improvement. But my gosh, what a job they did on this product. They really did knock it out of the park. Hats off to you guys over there. I know this has been a long time coming. So again, you can get it in the Pac-Man variety. You can get it in a normal arcade variety. Which one? It's hard to say. I guess if you're a Pac-Man fan, then get the Pac-Man one for sure. If you're fine with the generic one, I mean, both play the same, so you know, it's really up to you in terms of which kind of branding, which way you go. The Pac-Man might be more expensive depending on where you go, although I think on Amazon actually the Pac-Man's a little cheaper right now. So again, check the links down below for where you can get these things. But yes, this is a very enthusiastic thumbs up. Well done, Ambassador. Great job. All right, so if you like this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up on the way out the door. It really does help this channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Love each other, and until next time, I'll see you guys in the Game Shack. Mwah!
Be sure to visit EvilGeniusEntertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much more.